When couples split up, who gets the dog? This is a question that is becoming, I guess, more and more prevalent during divorce cases. And it's difficult to reach a compromise because both sides love the animals. Why do we still treat pets like property? It's a pretty good question. Is there a legal difference between a piece of furniture and a dog? And so we thought this was an interesting topic, and we're joined now.
Well, there's one difference. The furniture won't poop on the carpet. You don't have to worry about that.
That is right. We're joined now by Jennifer Hargrave. She is a family law attorney with a specialty in healthy marriages, and she's worked on, as we like to call them, pup nups. Who would have thought that you needed a pup nup? Jennifer, good morning.
Good morning. How are you all?
Doing well. Thank you on this Monday morning. All right, so this is something that you're seeing more and more of?
We definitely do see a trend in fighting over Fido. Yes, it does happen. And, the idea of talking about pets during the prenup process can be a really good idea.
So what do you, going into a marriage, you're not thinking about, okay, what happens when this all goes south? Because it's all lovey-dovey at the beginning. So how do you have that conversation about the prenup over the pet?
Well, let's face it, a marriage is going to end one way or another, right? It's either going to end by death or it's going to end by divorce. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but, planning for that at a time when you are all lovey-dovey is often has much better outcomes than when you're planning for it when you absolutely hate each other. So I think it's a good conversation to have. And if you go into the marriage with pets, the conversations you need to have are who's going to be paying for the pet, because unlike that coffee table or the sofa or other pieces of property, pets are expensive. They have ongoing expenses. So it's a good thing to talk about, who's going to be paying. The other thing that's good to talk about is, if you do break up, are you going to do some kind of a visitation schedule? And I generally, we can try and treat pets like children. I generally try and advise against that just because it creates all kinds of conflict after the relationship ends. And, when your relationship ends, ideally, you're done with each other. You don't have these ongoing obligations. And sometimes a custody schedule with pets can just create breeding ground for more conflict.
You say that's, just bad. You shouldn't treat pets like children, but given that you mentioned it unbidden, I can only imagine that you're seeing more and more of it.
We do. We definitely see pets being used really kind of as a weapon, frankly, right? It's a way to hurt each other when you know that a pet is particularly, special to one person, and then the other person is trying to fight over the rights to the pet. We have spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars negotiating pet custody agreements, and then thousands of dollars trying to enforce them because it creates all problems in the life after divorce. So I really try to help people just kind of approach it with more of a level head. I know losing that pet can be a time of grief, but it probably may be less grief than losing thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to a fight over the pet.
Is it possible to let the dog decide?
Right. Well, that's actually not a bad thing. It's not unusual for a pet to have, kind of a primary attachment. I know in my household, I happen to be the one that the dog is deeply bonded to. So wherever I am, the dog is. So, yeah, that does kind of make sense, right? What's going to be in the best interest of the dog? So it's a good question to ask.
The dog can love everybody in the house, but there is going to be that chosen one in the house. And
right, that imprinting.
Right. And so I guess it's all very complicated using pets as a weapon in the whole visitation. But you advise, unlike with children where it would be important for the children to still have mom and dad in their lives, once the breakup is done, there's no need for the pet to have the other person in their life anymore.
Well, Well, I mean, that's kind of, I know it's easier said than done. And look, I know people have very deep bonds with their pets. And so, I just want people to be careful and to ask, really, what's the reason for this? Could it be that getting another pet, you can get excited about the idea of having a new puppy as you start your next chapter? I mean, don't be afraid to think about that, because that, might be best for you and for the beloved pet that you're leaving behind. What I've not done yet is had to call in pet psychologists to come testify about how traumatic the shift is going to be for the pet. But, I'm sure somebody along the line is just going to want to do that. But, I do think it is best, just for the certainty in life after divorce, that you're not constantly having to shuffle the pet back and forth.
And Jennifer, you mentioned people using pets as a weapon. Have you had cases where people will try to, go to the house and try to take the pet or that kind of thing?
Yes. And I will say one area where we have seen the law expand is especially like in the realm of protective orders, because we know in instances of domestic violence, we have definitely seen people use pets literally as a weapon to hurt somebody. And so in the state of Texas now, we can include pets in a protective order to keep somebody away from a pet. So there have been some expanded protections just because we know people do terrible things, unfortunately.
Jennifer Hargrave, good advice. She's a family law attorney specializing in healthy marriages and has worked on pup nups before. Jennifer, thanks for joining us this morning.
You bet. Thank you all.